Welcome back. This week we're going to expand a little bit more on what you've already been hopefully playing around with as you've watched these videos, and we're going to look at a little bit more of what you can do with the environments as you add in further animation. Now, last week we left off with looking at particles or effects, and I wanted to point out a resource that I had mentioned in earlier videos but forgot to mention in the previous ones. Check out Spriter's resource. This is a good place to look up some of these traditional games and look at how some of the sprites were put together. So here's Chrono Trigger, and here's some examples of some of those effects that are used in the combat system. And these are another good reference, good way to kind of dissect things. Please also remember to do your regular research on the real life versions. But this kind of stuff can go a long way to helping provide inspiration and also just give you something that you can reverse engineer as you look at how other games have done this in the past. All right, so I'm going to move on right now, and I'm going to shift to the screen. All right, this is from Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. And I'm bringing this one up because it's got some very simple but clear examples of props that are animated, which is what I'm going to be covering in this video. Props that are animated can be treated the same way as characters are. They can be set with just regular idle animation. So for example, things like flowers dancing in the background or lights that are, turning on and off. Those can be similar to some of the particles or the other effects that I spoke about in the last videos. But that's what they are. Everything here from this point on is kind of a variation on a theme. So with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, here's a chest, open and closed. They didn't need a lot of in-betweens. They simply had an open and a closed state. This glowing ball right here has 4 different states, and so you could have that cycling back and forth to give a glow effect. If I come down here to the doorway, we've got doors that have a simple open and closed version. And even more here, open and closed, open and closed. So here's a couple of simple ways that you can use these effects. I'm going to pull up this Unity right here. In this case, I've got an effect here of this waterfall that's moving, and it's just a couple of sprites going back and forth to give this illusion of movement. Well, this could be considered either a particle or as part of a prop, like just a background segment. I'm going to move this along. In this one, I also start to have meteors come down. And so these are each individually animated little objects that can be set up to move across the screen. And then I'll have that particle effect for where they hit and explode. So this is another combination of some prop movement as well as particle movement. The line starts to get gray at this point between whether it's just a pure particle versus background versus prop. But here's a couple of things that can be shown as examples. Now I'm going to jump over here to this other game build, and I already had a potted plant here as I was showing how to set props in and talked about layers. But now I want to take that same potted plant and I've added on some of the animations. So for example, right now I've got a simple idle animation, and that alone can bring something to life. It's 2 frames just going back and forth, but suddenly I've got movement here. It's not interactive movement, but it's movement just to add some flavor into the background. If I wanted something that was more interactive, like a chest opening or a door opening, I can also do that either with a simple sprite swap or with setting up a slightly more complex animation. So for example, if this potted plant was kicked or punched by the character, it would get knocked over. So it's got 3 sprites that then identify, here's the start, there's in process after getting kicked, and then falling to the ground, which is its final state. And so then suddenly that can be set up as an interactive object within the scene. So this video isn't meant to be long. It's just to get your mind thinking about what else you can do now that you're learning some of these tools and some of these approaches. What else can you build in? What can you add to your scene to bring it life? What other objects can you add in? What other characters can you add in? Putting creatures in your scene that just have a simple idle movement in the background, birds fluttering down and then taking off. I loved some of the effects of that in games like Harvest Moon, where you'd come out in the morning and it would really set the season when you'd have like birds come down, peck a few seeds and take off, and then the music would kick in. And there were all those different elements that kind of brought it together as a larger experience. So I encourage you to continue playing around, trying to create some of these retro games. Once more, I encourage you to review some of the resources that you can find, look at real life resources as well, and then try building more and more things. See what you can animate. Start building up scenes and see what you can come up with. Have fun playing around. Take care. Let me do one final transition. All right. Bye.